Redditors of Reddit. What is the most strange wrong number call you've ever received? Story 1. Dude called from prison. After I told him wrong number, he said he had nobody to talk to, and he had just dialed a random number. I was young and naive, but the dude never asked for anything. We talked for a while, him telling me how he got to be in jail. Straight up street thug, but he was trying to make good and get back to society in good shape. Never talked again. I hope he made it out okay. Story 2. When I picked up, someone immediately went off in a frantic worry about his dog, who ran away, now gone for a week. Well, he continued how he had looked everywhere. I stopped him and mentioned he had the wrong number. But out of kindness, we talked a little bit. Losing a pet is horrible, I know that, and I got to know the part of town where the dog went missing many miles away, and he mentioned some details about his dog. We'll be damned when I go to the market later that day, and I see a dog begging that meets the description. Now, in my mind, this is utterly impossible, period. Nevertheless, I look up the recent call in my phone history and FaceTime a guy. It's his dog. Edit somehow comments tend to take off during sleep, but yes, they were reunited 2 hours later. It was a fawn color, white chest. Like this, the owner thought he called a local website for when your pet has gone missing. He had already notified them and provided a picture. Because he was getting desperate, he thought he called the mobile of the volunteer to have the information added that the dog was wearing a scarf with the bright neon colors of a local band. The dog was not wearing that in the picture. So he tells me this, and it is how I recognize the dog. Story 3. I used to get calls for Phoebe right after I got my new number. A lot of calls. I was always nice and let them know they had the wrong number. This went on for 2 years. Near the end, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Phoebe. She said she wanted to apologize. Thanks me for being kind. And she thinks she told everyone the new number, but if anyone calls, could I give it to them? I said sure, no problem. Still occasionally got calls. I politely informed them of the new number. One guy was surprised and started texting me about the whole situation. We became friends only over text, and still text occasionally to this day. Story 4. I got a call and did not recognize the number, so I ignored it 3 or 4 times until I gave in. I picked up the phone, and before I could say anything, a guy with a Brooklyn accent starts talking in panic. And he said, "Why, that guy we saw was one of Polish Tom's boys. If he shows up, don't say about last night." And said, "Sorry, this must be the wrong number." He just started cursing and hung up. Ever since then, I have been curious what this Polish Tom looks like. Got this call on my work name of company. This is Gingerbeard73. How can I help you, man? Sound like he's in pain, Jimmy. This is your cousin Al. I'm sorry, sir. This is Gingerbeard73, and there's no Jimmy here. Jimmy, it's your cousin Al, sir. I'm sorry. There's no Jimmy here. Jimmy, it's your cousin Al. I'm alive, sir. Is everything okay? Who is this, Al? This is Gingerbeard73. You call my business, but real quick, are you okay? Oh, sorry, I was hit by a truck like in the last 10 minutes. Hearty chuckle, no, cousin. Like 2 weeks ago, I was out with cousin Jimmy, and I got hit by a truck walking home. When I came to, cousin Jimmy was gone, and I had called the 911. Jesus Christ, Al. I'm glad you're okay. Oh, cousin Gingerbeard73, don't take Jesus' name like that. He kept me alive when that truck hit me. My apologizes, Al. I'm just glad you're okay. Oh, it's okay, cousin Gingerbeard73. I just wanted to call cousin Jimmy to let him know I'm okay. I'm sorry, Al. What's this Al business? We're cousins. I'm sorry, cousin Al. But cousin Jimmy sounds like a piece of, he kind of is, well, I have to get going. Mighty good of you to talk with me. No problem, cousin Al. I wish you a speedy recovery. Mighty kind of you. You take care. He hung up after that. He hasn't called back, but I think about my new family member every day. Story 5. I was repeatedly getting an international number, and when I pick up, the only thing that is said is hello, and then it doesn't hang up, and it's clearly a recording of the hello, and then faint static, super creepy. Also, one time I had a wrong number call from the area code I live in, and when I told the guy that I wasn't Greg, he didn't seem to mind and asked me if I party. I said no, so he reiterated and asked if I got high. I think it was a drug dealer cold call. Story 6. Not a call, but I thought it'd be worth sharing. I got a text from a wrong number once about 10 years ago that said, "Hey girl, you still dance, need to make some money quick." This is funny enough by itself, but particularly amusing because I am a man, and hilarious because I also happen to be a paraplegic. Story 7. I work in an old folks' home and was in the elevator one day. The emergency phone started ringing. I pushed the button to answer. It was some guy looking for a chiropractor's office. He was super confused when I told him he called an elevator in an assisted living community. I was confused, BC. Who knew you could call an elevator from an outside line? Story 8. This was a text. The guy was off by a digit and was texting to me off an Albertsons West Coast-based grocery store chain parking lot for painkillers. No, I did not go to get sucked off, because I know you're going to ask me that. I didn't have any painkillers to give. Story 9. My best friend's older sister saved a voicemail for years until she got a new phone. This little boy, who sounded maybe 5 or 6, was apparently calling his girlfriend to break up with her and said he was mad at her, and he was going to call her the J word and the R word and the M word. He went through a solid 75 of the alphabet, then ended with, "Okay, he'll see you tomorrow at school. I love you, bye." It was fantastic. Story 10. A lady called me one day and said, "Hello, it's your mother," the same way my mom always says it. So we chat for 10 minutes, and for once she seems to be really listening to me. Acknowledging what I'm saying, very sympathetic and concerned in her short replies. So I started to spill my guts about how it's been so hard for me lately, and I'm really just keeping it together for the kids, but all I really want to do is run away, or die, trying. The concern pours out of her telling me I should go see a therapist she knows, and how I've been stronger than this in the past, and she's spot on about everything. Then she says, "Have you told Terry?" Terry, who I replied, "Her, your wife Terry, my daughter. Me am not married to Terry, I'm talking about Tara." Her, "Is this Bob?" Me, "No, this is Leafs 9999. Her, "Oh honey, I'm so sorry, I have the wrong number, but you hang in there and it will all work out. Goodbye." And she hung up. Would really like my mom to actually listen like that woman did one day. Story 11, not exactly what you asked, but I made a wrong number call that has stayed with me. My elderly mom passed away, and the nursing home rang me in the early hours of the morning about 3 a.m. to let me know. It wasn't unexpected, but it's still a shock when it happens. So I tried to ring my brother to let him know, and I must have dialed the wrong number. A young man answered, and ID obviously woken him from a deep sleep. I realized immediately that he wasn't my brother and apologized. He asked who I was after, and I said I was trying to ring my brother as our mom has just passed away. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss." I know that probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but I just thought what a nice young man he must be to remember his manners and offer sympathy even when woken from a deep sleep by a random wrong number. It has stayed with me. Story 12, I once got called because a drug dealer had been shot by police, and they were calling the numbers on his phone to help identify him. I asked them who died, but they said they got the number wrong when they called me, so they apologized and hung up. Story 13, I noticed I missed a call from an unknown number, and the area code was for a town out of state that my daughter happened to be attending an EDM music festival at. Of course, the mom and me panicked and called it back, but I got the answering message. I left a message saying what my first name was and that I had a daughter currently in that town, and if the call was from or about her I could be reached at, please call me back, etc. About an hour later, I got a call back from a sweet older lady with a thick southern accent telling me, "Sugar, I couldn't let you worry, sweetie. I dialed the wrong number and I noticed right away and hung up, but you must have seen it. And here I made you worry for nothing. Your girls are right. My grandson is a paramedic, and he says ain't no one died up there yet. And only 2 boys got dehydrated so far and passed out. She's having fun, I bet. We talked for a half hour. Shout out to you, Clara." Story 14, I once got an international American phone call, and as I neither recognized the number, nor could I quickly pull up an ID on it, I picked it up, and this guy instantly started blathering on in Russian with a thick Russian accent, and with a speed that I assumed that only a native speaker could talk at. After a few moments, I managed to get his attention and go, "Oi, who this?" And there's this awkward silence. And then suddenly the speaker switches to this American, Texanish accent with impeccable English and profusely apologized before hanging up. This was a while ago, and I've switched phones and since lost the call history, but now, and again, I wonder, just what did I intercept? Story 15, block number. Thought it was my brother the cop, so I picked it up. Nope. It was a little girl who insisted I was her daddy. It was a little creepy. I didn't have a daughter at the time, except the one cooking inside my wife. She had this crazy little laugh that went with, "Oh yes, you do have a daughter." Mohaha, that's when it went to crazy creepy. So I hung up on her demon laugh. Story 16, some weird guy handling affairs at some California courthouse, screaming at me, saying I was supposed to show up. The man left like 12 voicemails once, and I had no clue, each one escalating in anger. Really weird guy. Needs to chill out his job. Story 17, a few months ago, I got a call from a convenience store in town, and they asked for me by last name, super uncommon last name. So I know it was me. Right after I said it was me, they hung up, I called them back, and they said they must have called the wrong number. They literally asked for me by name. After overanalyzing it for hours, I thought it was some sort of scam. It has been a few months, though, and no sign of anything weird on any accounts or anything as of yet. Story 18, when I went to school in Chico, California, I lived in a dorm with a pay phone in the common room. One night, 4 or 5 of us are sitting around watching TV, and one guy, call him Marvin, is expecting a call from his brother, call him Floyd, in school in Nevada. The phone rang, and Marvin answers, "Hey, Floyd, how you doing?" "In essence, great. Let me talk to Marvin." "Haha, this is Marvin. Now let me talk to Floyd." "Dude, I am Floyd. Put my brother Marvin on now." "Okay, wait, is this Floyd in Nevada?" "Nah, man, this is Floyd in Utah." Eventually, they worked out that the 2 Floyds were trying to call their 2 brothers Marvin on the same night. They worked out that the phone number Floyd had called was 1 digit off, and all 4 were in college. There was much amazement and a little hilarity when Marvin finally hung up and told us what had happened. Story 19, I didn't answer, but I listened to a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was a guy claiming he knew where I lived, and he thinks I'm very beautiful and would love to take me out sometime. He ended the message with, "If you don't respond, I'll kill your dog." I was kind of freaked out, so I texted, "Sorry, you have a wrong number," I knew, because I didn't have a dog. He responded with an apology and said it was just a joke he was playing on his GF at the time. I really hope they just like to play creepy jokes on each other. Ooh. Story 20, in Chilean Spanish. Al, good afternoon. Could you please contact me with Mr. XXXXX? Please tell him I'm still interested on the baby goats he offered me the other day. Also in Spanish. Wrong number. Oh, sure. Hangs up. Story 21, usually, I'm the sort of guy who simply informs wrong number callers that I am not, in fact, the person they're looking for. But back when I first got my own telephone line at age 16, I noticed a sudden increase in the amount of misdialed calls that I was receiving. The reason for this change was fairly obvious. My new phone number, by a stroke of interesting luck, was composed almost entirely of the number 5. While this certainly made it memorable, it also made it far more likely for me to receive calls that had been intended for someone else. I would wind up speaking with strangers about a dozen times a week, and I developed a rather broad repertoire for informing them of their mistake. Hello, ID answer. Hi. The other person might reply, "Is Warren there?" Who is this? ID politely asked. "This is Emily. I'm sorry." Emily would be my somber response, "But your friend Warren is in another castle." Only a handful of people thought that it was funny. Perhaps the most memorable occasion, though, was also the one that made me reevaluate my telephonic activities. I had been hanging out with my then-girlfriend, attempting to explain the finer points of the terrible song that I was writing, when the telltale sound of an incoming call drowned out my words. With a roll of my eyes, I reached over, picked up the receiver, and handed it to my girlfriend. She said, eyeing me, "Hello." "Hey," answered the voice on the other end. "Where's Juan?" Judging by the tone and the manner of speech, the caller was only barely through puberty, but was trying his damnedest to sound like an intimidating figure. "There's no one here," my girlfriend replied. I had to suppress a giggle at how that sounded. "Bullshit," the young man said. "I know he's over there, I promise. There's nobody named Juan here." An affected growl accompanied the next line. "You tell that he owes me." By that point, I'd grown tired of listening to the exchange and decided that I wanted to be more involved in it. I shrugged at my girlfriend, took back the telephone, and did my best to imitate the same high but gruff tone of voice being used by the individual on the other end of the line. "I don't know you," I barked. "Don't call here again, you." I knew it came to reply. "I'm going to kill you." Despite the apparent anger, there was also a hint of laughter in the threat. Once again, I decided to respond in kind. "You couldn't kill a plant, you noodle-armed beanbag. He'll fight you right now. He'll kill you, you. And what, weed killer? Fuck you, I'm just kidding, man," I said, suddenly dropping into my real voice. "There's no one here." It should have been enough to end the call. But unfortunately, it seemed as though the conversation had progressed past the point of no return. "Nah," the young man spat. "No, I'm going to kill you. I'm coming over right now. Do you hear me? I'll kill you." With that, the line went dead, and I found myself wondering if ID just condemned an innocent man named Juan to death at the hands of a wannabe tough guy, whose voice kept cracking. I suppose there are worse ways to go. But it was enough to make me think twice about how I answered wrong numbers. TLDR, I may have killed someone by answering a wrong number. Story 22, after moving provinces and changing my cell number, for the next 3 years, I received calls from collection agents looking for Jason Williams. At least once a month, I received a call. After the first year, I began telling them this is no longer his number. I've recorded the name of their busnius, and any further contact will result in harassment charges. 39 different collection agencies called looking for him since I started taking notes. 39. I still to this day have no idea who Jason is or what he was doing. But I haven't received a call for him for 2 years now. Story 23, not really strange, but really annoying. I used to get calls from some guy, usually around 2 to 3 a.m., looking for someone named Dave. I would usually be asleep when he called, but he always left a voicemail for Dave. Just your typical, "It's Jeff, call me back" type of thing. This went on for weeks. I never called him back. I thought they'd get the hint, or at least see this Dave guy in person by that point and figure out their mistake. But no, one afternoon I got another voicemail looking for Dave, so I called him back. The guy picked up, and I explained the number had just called and left a voicemail to his mine, and he's been calling the wrong number for a month. He completely denied calling me. Said he hadn't called anyone that day, and he's never called my number. At this point, I'm annoyed. I know it's him. I've been listening to his voicemails for weeks. I basically just said, "I know it's you. Stop calling me." And he acted like I was crazy. He stopped calling after that, though. Story 24, well, hey race one I accidentally placed. I was calling a friend named Kate, but I got the area code wrong, and a guy answered. I asked for Kate, and he was like, "Who are you?" I said I was a friend of Kate's. And then he outright says, "Are you sleeping with my wife?" I was like, no, I'm calling for Kate. And he says my wife's name isn't Kate, but it is Catherine. That's when I realized I'd dialed the wrong number. So I said, "Oh, I think I have a wrong area code," and hung up. But I'm sure from his perspective, it sounded like I was lying and just trying to get off the line. "Sorry, Catherine. I bet you had some explaining to do when you got home that day." Story 25 got a voicemail on the house phone a few years ago. It was from an older sounding guy with what sounded like the worst case of laryngitis I've ever heard. All he said was, "Linda, call me on this number. It's in your interest. I have no idea who Linda is or why she should call, but everyone in the family assumes she's dead by now." Story 26. One day, after I have just watched YouTube vid about eating ballot as a challenge, I received a call from an unknown number asking me, "What is ballot in Vietnamese?" Due to the fact that I have just watched the vids, my immediate response wasn't "Who is this?" but rather the egg thing. The person immediately realized it was a wrong number and hung up. Story 27. I used to get calls in my college dorm room from people speaking what I think was Korean, maybe Vietnamese, not sure. They were clearly trying to contact a student there. Maybe the person who had my room before and the family still had the phone number, but they sounded very distressed and were asking for somebody's name. But they didn't speak any English at all, and I couldn't talk to them either, so I couldn't even help a little bit. The calls eventually stopped after a couple of weeks. I hope they got in contact with whoever they were trying to reach. Story 28. Back in the days of dial-up, when I was about 16, I was secretly surfing on sites in the computer room while the rest of my family was in the living room watching television. Suddenly my connection is gone, and immediately the phone starts ringing. Since one of the phone's landline was close to the computer, I pick up. A voice with a foreign accent says, "You called the wrong number." Even if I didn't call anyone. Nonplussed, I reconnect to the internet. 15 minutes later, cops appear at our doorstep in full body armor and with flashlights, telling my shocked mom they receive an emergency call from our house and wanted to check if there was a domestic disturbance. To this day, I have no explanation for what happened. Story 29. My mother. Actually, this was around the early 2000s maybe. When she got her first cell phone, she would always get random calls from men looking for some woman. I forgot her name, but let's say, "Candy, you've got the wrong number. She'd tell them," and that be it. Finally, after one call, she decides to ask one of the callers who this Candy was. So we get some information and are able to find a website. Turns out, Candy was in of types. My mom sent her an email and told her the number she was listed was incorrect. We had a good laugh. Story 30. I was about 7 years old. The phone rang. Nobody was around, so I answered it. A male with a deep, hoarse voice said, "Hello, little girl." "Hello? Is your mommy home? Who is this? You don't know who this is?" "No, it's the devil child. I'm about to take you to." I screamed and started crying and dropped the phone. I ran to the next door neighbor's house, and my friend was outside. As I was trying to explain what happened through tears, I see my brother in our other neighbor's backyard. I hear him on the phone in a deep voice, "Where your little girl will find you, don't worry," and his friend were around the phone giggling. That's when I figured it out. My brother is in, Story 31. This was in the 90s, long before cell phones were common. At college, my brother and I were both students, roommates in an off-campus apartment. I was graduating, waiting in the lobby of the University Job Placement Center for an appointment with a counselor. There was a landline phone on the desk, normally used by students to call job reps. It wasn't really meant to get incoming calls. It rang. I looked up at the receptionist, who motioned for me to answer it, as I was the only other person present, and was within arm's reach of it. It was my brother's major professor, trying to get a hold of him. I told him where my brother was. He was out running errands and suggested when he could call the apartment to get a hold of him. He thanked me. I asked him how he knew to call the job center. He had meant to call the apartment, and when I picked up, had assumed that was what he had done. He didn't know had misdialed until I told him, and I had to hand the phone to the receptionist before he believed me. So, calling the correct number would not have worked. Nobody was there. My brother was not reachable by phone at that time. I was the only person near a phone who knew his schedule. His processor dialed a wrong number and accidentally got the phone that I happened to be next to. Story 32. Someone called my number asking for Gary. I'm not Gary, and that isn't even close to my name. I politely said, "I'm sorry, you have the wrong number." They stated back that no, they didn't. And I was and they were going to kill me. It was at this point I decided, this guy. So I said back some things like, "Come over and do it, and ill you up so bad you'll be like peeing blood," or something like that. The guy got more pissed off and said some other, "Then I just went again, no, seriously, dude, you have the wrong number," and hung up. Story 33. Not really a wrong number story, but I used to work on the switchboard at the local hospital, and there's a nurse with a horrible stutter named David. Sadly, most of my coworkers lost patience trying to understand him, as did the other nurses around his unit. The first time I got one of his calls, I recognized what was going on and exactly how bad his stutter was. I said, "David, hey, I'm Lisa. What Chinese?" I had hoped this calmed him down, and because stuttering only gets worse with the speaker stress, he was able to get through his request. From that point, all of his calls were directed to me. When I was on, I helped wrong number calls. I'm that guy. Story 34. I've been enjoying the poorly translated warning that I am in trouble with the IRS and need to call this number right away before they take me to custody. Usually a New York number. Story 35. 2 a.m. I leave my phone at my bedside for calling shift. Hey, Amber. No. Sorry, you have the wrong number. Well then, what are you doing right now? I just cracked up laughing and said good night. Story 36. This story kind of fits the topic. I'd been working a fried chicken chain headquartered in Georgia when I was in high school. They were saddling me with 4 midnight shifts while I was still in school. Side note. That job was a nightmare, and I left after only 3 days, so I was exhausted and not thinking clearly at all during my shifts. On my 3rd night, we had a woman come in, ask for a water cup. I give it to her and go back to hating the job. A few minutes later, she comes back up to the counter and asks for another water cup. It's at this point that my brain turns back on, and I actually noticed this woman. She was late 20s, had a very thick Vietnamese accent, was wearing very scant clothing and a lot of very shitty makeup, and her right arm was covered in small bruises that I knew were the result of improper needle punctures. I take all this information, add the fact that it's about 10 and that our restaurant wasn't in the best location, and I come to the conclusion that this woman is some kind of prostitute. I give her the new water cup, and I watch her as she goes to fill it up, take a few sips while strutting across the restaurant, which was dead empty at that point, before setting the water cup down on the railing between 2 booths. Then she comes back up and asks for another water cup, this time with a receipt printed off so she can see the address. I give her another cup along with a blank receipt, and watch as she does her sip strut routine again, this time stopping by a booth that had an unfortunate customer in it to ask him something. As morbidly entertaining as this was, I decided to take my food break. I get my food, sit down, and start eating while browsing my phone. This woman walks over to me and sits down in the chair across from me and asked to borrow my phone to make a call. My brain was fried and I just wanted to eat my food, so I let her. She makes a call. I can tell it's ringing, and she looks frustrated. It goes to voicemail. She dials again, voicemail. This time I see her start dialing again, but now she's dialing something a lot longer. I realize she's texting someone, but am too confused to really say anything before she tosses my phone back onto the table, leans back with a huff, and says, if anyone replies, let me know. And then she doesn't get up. She's still just sitting across from me. She'll know if it goes off. I check my message to see what she sent, but she seems to have deleted whatever she sent. So I rush through my meal in uncomfortable silence, then get back to work. She does the water thing a few more times, and by the time I'm cleaning up front of house later that night, there's 7 half-drink water cups scattered around the restaurant. So I finish my shift, go to sleep exhausted. I wake up the next morning to find that I have a string of text messages from an unknown number. I go back to my call log to see who the prostitute was calling, and sure enough, same number. The messages are ingrained into my brain and are as follows. Hey, Angie, yo, Angie, where you at? This place closed. Angie, coming out here. Angie, I'm at McDonald's. I'm getting breakfast. You want something? I got you a McMuffin. Where you at? So I feel kind of bad for this confused pimp who lost track of his girl. So I do what any reasonable, naive, white high schooler would do, call him. So I do. First thing he says is, Angie, where you at? Oh, I'm sorry, man, but I don't know. This woman came into the chain name that I work at and asked to use my phone. I didn't know that she had texted you. Oh, yeah. Huh. I get it. And then he hung up on me. I thought it was fairly clear that he didn't believe me. So the next thing I did was call my boss and tell him he needed to change my hours because working right after school wouldn't be possible after a brief argument over him not wanting to give me different hours. I quit. No idea what happened to Angie or her pimp. Story 37. Several years ago, I got a text message from an unfamiliar number that said something like this one's good too, and included a JPG of Hello Kitty in a KKK robe standing in front of a burning cross. Story 38. I had a missed call on my phone. I rang it, and no one answered. I went to text it, and when Text Messenger came up, it said my name as the contact it showed as a random number in my call log. But it wasn't my number, and I had had my number for about 10 years. The phone was a brand new one that had never had another SIM card in it. I texted it, and no one replied, and the text also didn't come through to me like it does when you text yourself. My friends tried calling and couldn't get through either. No one ever answered or messaged back. Strangest thing was this number hadn't been saved as a contact in my contacts until the call came through, and my phone wouldn't allow me to delete the contact or number. Weird. Story 39. Somehow, someone down in the States, Canadians had wired up a buzzer at an apartment wrong, such that when someone tried to buzz in, our home phone would ring for weeks. Late at night, drunk folks would call asking to get into the apartment. We weren't sure what to make of it. Finally, a sober guy tried to buzz in, and we were able to figure it out. Better still, found out we were able to buzz people into this random apartment by pressing 9 on our end. Problem sorted itself out pretty quick after we started hitting 9 every time the phone rang. Story 40. I had my old phone number for more than a decade, so I was getting robocalls galore when I decided to take the plunge and get a phone plan together. I was thrilled to get a new phone number. What I didn't realize is that some idiot named Tony had my number before. He either died or was too lazy to tell everyone that he changed his number. I'm guessing the latter. It's been over 6 months, and I still get work-related and personal calls and texts for this Tony. I used to call them back and leave voicemails explaining that this was no longer Tony's number, and they needed to tell him to tell people that he had changed his number. One person texted me and demanded, "Who is this?" I guess they thought I stole his phone or something. "You Tony, let me enjoy my new number in peace." So this old lady had her phone on divert to my number. The phone company couldn't do anything because she had it diverted to my number on her phone. I can only assume it was one digit out. A family member was in hospital dying, had been brought in by ambulance, and was not long for this world. So other family member called and left a message that they saw her car in the car park and to come to area as ill person may not live long. She didn't get the message. 2. Her friends had a fantastic ski trip and went into details of where they went, what they did, and with whom. They wanted to catch up with her soon. She didn't get this message either. 3. The hospital rang to say that she had an appointment in department on date within a week. Luckily, they left their number, so I rang back and explained the situation and admonished them for leaving personal details on a random message minder for some kids singing happy birthday to her. 5. Completely unintelligible accented message to the lady about a get-together. I understood maybe one word in 5-6. Noticed that a Pilates class was postponed or the location changed. I can't quite remember. 7. And finally a nephew who left his number for a callback. So I did and explained the whole list of messages and how the phone company can't help. And can he please change the diversion on her phone? He must have, because I didn't get any more, although I systematically blocked all numbers that called for her. Story 41. I had various police departments calling me looking for someone for about 8 months. I had had my number for about 3 years when it started. Turns out police do not believe it when you tell them that they have the wrong number. Story 42. I got a call one night about 10 p.m. from a man who said, "Mary." "What are you doing?" Mary happened to be my name, not really. But so as not to reveal my identity on here, suffice to say he actually got my name right. So I said Johnny. Believe it or not, that was his name too. What are the odds of that happening? 2 strangers getting each other's names correct. Jay. "Yeah, what are you doing?" Bar sound to background him. "Nothing. What are you doing, Jay?" "I'm at Randy's and they're having karaoke and winners get 100. 00. Really? Wow. You gonna try for it? Jay, only if you come and sing with me. Come on. I tell it'll be fun. And broke on fun money this week. Jay. "Yeah, well, okay, I'll buy. You're not gonna dream me broke, are you?" Laughing hysterically, "No. You know me, I'm lucky to drink 1 beer all night." Jay. "Yeah, I know you. I was just teasing." More laughter, "Hey, remember the last time we sang karaoke?" Jay. "Hey, hang on a second. Don't hang up. I'm gonna get me another beer." "Okay, don't hang up. Be right back." "Okay, you'll hold." Husband looks over at me and mouths, "Who you talking to?" I mouth back, "Johnny." He's at Randy's. My husband looks at me strange and says, "Hang up." I say, "No, it's Johnny." Husband goes, "ITS, not Johnny. I talked to him just now." And HES at home. "Hang up, Lucy." Mouth gaping open and eyes wide with disbelief. I held the phone to my ear in shock. Suddenly, "Jay, hey, you still there, Who is this?" "Jay, you forgot already." And in the one drinking hysterical laughter, "No, really, who is this?" "Jay, Mary, come on, tell me, or I'm hanging up." Jay. Okay, don't hang up. "It's Johnny, Johnny who, Jay, Mary? Come on. Okay, don't hang up." "Johnny Westfield, not real name, OMG, you've got the wrong number." "Jay, what? This is Mary Monroe, right, "No, I'm Mary, but my last name is not Monroe." "Jay, seriously, you sound just like her. Well, do you want to come down to Randy's and karaoke with me?" Laughs hysterically, "I don't think so. Goodbye." Laugh, Jay. "Okay, you sure? Okay, nice talking to you." Laughs, we hang up. Then I died laughing about the odds of something like that happening between complete strangers.